Good afternoon, Cypress shooters. Nate and Morgan, another episode of Liquor on the Rock.
How's everybody doing?
Brought to you semi-live, the Friday Harbor House Bar, San Juan Island.
It's been a couple of weeks since our last video. I managed to catch a massively horrible bug, so my fault.
He's back drinking, folks.
Blame my immune system.
What do we got for him today?
All right, so today we're talking about blended whiskeys or blended scotches. A lot of times blends get a lot of bad rap. They're usually used like cheaper options, used for mixers, something you don't usually drink on your own. However, there are definitely some that have made a name for themselves, such as like Johnny Walker, which is all they do are different blends, different age statements, all the way up to a relatively new company called Compass Box, which has won some pretty high awards for its scotches. And I'm going to let you know that blended scotches are just as good to drink on their own.
And I just learned today that actually all the distilleries in Scotland were producing 4 blended scotches. Because I also just learned that single malt was not even a category until like 1960.
That's correct, yeah. A lot of the times, just storage, distilling, all that was really hard to make like a single malt and then age it long enough to have it still taste right. So blending was very common because it allowed you to change the flavors and maintain a drinkable product.
And most of that's kind of done by a broker, like who buys.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Because it's not like the distilleries are blending, or they are.
They are, yeah. Distilleries will blend. Brokerages, like, of course, like Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker is owned by a company called Diageo, and they own... Diageo, sorry. They own a number of different distilleries, which, including Lagavulin, Talisker, Clynelish, Cardew, Dalwhinnie, all those ones. And all of those distilleries do produce their own scotches on their own number, but are mainly producing for Johnny Walker because it is one of the most popular alcohol or popular whiskeys in the world.
Yeah.
You've probably seen their red label and their black label at most bars pretty commonly.
And if you're really into it, you've probably seen the green label.
Yeah, they got the green, the gold platinum, which was their 18-year, and then if you have about $200 to plop down, their blue label, which is their top of the line. I have tried it. I don't think it's worth $200. I think I would go for one of their other ones. That's quite a bit cheaper, and I like the flavor a little better. I don't know.
All right.
So, but I like Johnny Walker. I like their green label. I like their double black, which is the black label that's a little bit peatier. So, because I do like my peat.
Now, does the peat in those blends still come from like a Lafroig
or Lagavulin or Talisker?
Okay, so any of those with the big, strong peat smoke will lend nice notes to a blend.
But so, like in the case of like Johnny Walker, they blend, they say, up to 40 whiskeys to make their recipe for Johnny Walker.
That's the secret. That's the Coca-Cola secret recipe. You're not going to know that.
Another one like Monkey Shoulder, which you've probably seen a lot of advertisements for. They're really pushing this one hard as a cocktail blended. This is made by William Grant, so they own Balvenie and Glenfiddich. So all that stuff's being produced, and they're blending this themselves.
Yeah, shout out Monkey Shoulder, mixologist Scotch. This Scotch needs a cocktail, or I think that's their promotional push, but super delicious on its own.
Yeah.
Fun to mix with, but nice to sip.
And for the price point it is, at least on the island, this is a high 20s, low 30s. It's definitely good enough to sip on its own.
We might as well start with this, huh?
So this Monkey Shoulder is a Speyside. So this is usually classified as not peaty. We'll have more floral and citrus notes usually.
Smooth, rich,
Yeah.
non-smoky.
Yeah, it's honey. It's got a good little burn to it. It's citrusy, a little bit of like orange rind, mandarin.
That's really, yeah, I have no problem. I mean, I understand the kind of makes it more versatile to market it as something to be mixed and
Yeah.
made cocktails with, but really nice on its own.
I do enjoy this one. And it's nice and oily, it sticks.
Yeah.
If you would.
Yeah.
Put this back.
And did the as far as the societal understanding of blended scotches, where you're saying that people
Yeah.
kind of look down on them maybe a little more?
Yeah, so also another thing to learn about blended scotch is that they use both pure single malts, which means barley, or single grain, which can be anything, any cereal grain. We're talking wheat, we're talking oats, corn. There's some places that even use quinoa. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
So,
Portland.
yeah, right. Those grain whiskeys are what's kind of gives it the losing the train of thought. Make people think that it's not going to be as good because they're usually a harsher, not as mellow, doesn't have any nuances as barley, but you can get some very good grain whiskeys out there. Especially they're aged right.
And when did that change? Because if single malt has only been a category since the 60s, and blendeds were, I mean, distilleries started, 1800s, officially, legally. Why are blends kind of having a resurgence of people getting
It's flavoring. Originally, a lot of times, whiskey barrels were sold to grocers, and the grocer themselves wouldn't blend the whiskeys to create their own flavor and bottle it themselves. That's where like Johnny Walker came from. They owned a goods and feed store. So, and that's the reason it got its name is because the black label that used to be on it, people just order it by. It had like John Walker and Sons blended Scotch whiskeys.
And they would know it by the label and say, "Give me the black label."
Yeah, just a little bit annoying. This one is a Cutty Sark. Cutty Sark is definitely bottom shelf, no offense, of whiskeys. They did put out this Prohibition one, however, and this one I do, and it's just as low priced, and I really think they did a great job with this one. Cutty Sark, of course, is a sailing ship that used to ship goods all over the world back in the early 1800s, and the original Cutty Sark whiskey was one that was being smuggled into the U.S. During Prohibition.
Okay.
So thank you, Canada, because it usually came from you. We love you.
All right. So the notes on the back of this says cracked black pepper, toffee, vanilla.
And there's a lot of grain whiskey in the Cutty Sark, and it is.
You can kind of smell
Yeah, it's that
for
peppery and toasted cereals, sort of. Like somebody burned my rice checks or something.
Ooh, I like that.
It's good. I think for the price point, it's surprisingly good.
What did you say this runs?
Low 20s.
That's a steal. Shout out Cutty Sark.
And it's got enough flavor and pepperiness to it that it would stand out in a cocktail too. Not just kind of blend away in.
The real McCoy.
I think we're gonna jump past Dewar's and Chivas Regal, all of which you've probably seen at other bars.
Classic rusty nail ingredient.
Yeah.
A little on the sweet side for me.
Dewar's actually makes a number of older age statement blends that I haven't actually had a chance to try, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Compass Box. Compass Box is kind of one of my favorite whiskey blenders right now, because they do not own their own distillery at all. They go around to all the different distilleries, buy up barrels, blend them themselves, and they're super into transparency, which means they will publish exactly what's in each one of their scotches. Now, this is getting them in trouble with the good old boys back at the Scotch Whisky Board in Scotland, so they've had to get around this by saying this contains so much percentage of a whiskey located on this street in this town. They don't name the distillery by name on some of their blends. They just, it's like give you, oh, it's located here, and you have to get on Google and figure out which one that is.
Why do they do that?
Just because they were like the Scotch Shore Whiskey Control Board was like, we don't want you telling people what's in these blends. It's kind of like, this is our closely guarded secret, stay away, but you can go on their website and it's a lot of fun. This is for the spice tree, which we're going to do last, because that is definitely a very nice blended scotch, and I would recommend it. They'll give you the barrels, how much percentage, what type of barrel it was in, how long it was in there, and if you're a whiskey nerd, it's a lot of fun. So this is the Compass Box, Great King Street. They produced 2 in this line, the Artist Blend and then the Glasgow Blend. The Glasgow blend was created to kind of mimic scotches from kind of historical scotches, how the original flavors were, and so it does contain a little bit of peat. Their Artist Blend is a little bit sweeter, a little bit more Highland Speyside, and we don't have that one at the moment, but I think these are excellent considering they are all in the low mid-30s, at least with the island tax anyway.
Now, is this going to have a hint of smoke or peat? Because
This
I
one
smell
does.
it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's really nice. Would you bet that's a Lagavulin or a Lafroig undernote?
Well, I would say, part of me wants to say actually Lagavulin, not Lafroy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I do that all the time. Lafroy, not Lagavulin.
Okay.
It's
Is it that kind of beachier?
yeah, it's that
saltier
saltier sort of thinness to the smoke at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get online and look exactly where this came from, but who knows? It's kind of fun.
But it is, you can really tell the difference of like an Isla.
Mm-hmm.
You get that kind of, on the ocean, salty beach bonfire flavor.
And this has some berryness to it, some honey, of course, which is pretty common. They do our blending. They will blend some grain whiskeys as well as some single malts as well. But it's a lot of. If you're a whiskey nerd, it's a fun one to try because you can learn exactly what goes into it, and you can start maybe learning about how to do blends on your own. Like, oh, if I know this came from this distillery and this came from this distillery, and I know they taste good together, put them together. Start your own little bottle. Play with it.
Infinity bottle mentioned in the last video.
All right, so finally the Spice Tree. This is by Compass Box. Their step up for this one, the Spice Tree Extravaganza, won World's Best Whiskey Award 2017. So you know it's got to be good. Doesn't matter if it's blended or not. So the Spice Tree, this one is not going to have any peatiness to it. This is all here to bring out the different sort of florals and spices like cinnamon and clove and all that you find in some of these whiskeys. And just, it's got a really good nose on it too.
So spice notes, no peat, no smoke.
No, all...
Oh yeah, you can smell that kind of higher, clear.
There's a solidness to it. It's very kind of perfumey on the palate. It's good. Yeah, it's this one's going to be a little bit harder hit on the wallet. So look to find the Spice Tree running about $100 for a bottle. Close to 200 if you're getting the extravaganza, which is the one that actually won the 2017 awards. So,
Yeah, that's that Highland single malt blend. And Highland, I guess it doesn't matter if we're not talking about peat characteristics, but I was listening to a podcast today. It was talking about the fact that Highland peat is more of a blend of, old pine trees,
right, yeah,
and those kind of different, whereas the Isla, it's not really hospitable to trees, so it's more of those like bog myrtle, bog
heather,
cotton,
bush,
heather.
yeah. So yeah, your excuse me, your peatiness flavor will change depending on where your peat's coming from. So that's kind of fun when you can find a peated Highland or kind of get the flavor difference.
Wow. That's really tasty. You definitely get those kind of baking spice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a full-on like fruit tart, alcoholic fruit tart in a glass, basically.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm still getting better.
Pretty,
all right.
Pretty clean labeling.
Oh,
design is.
Compass Box is great for their labels. Get on their website. Check out some of the stuff they do. It is artwork in both the blending and on the bottles.
Blended malt Scotch whiskey.
Yep. So this one doesn't contain any grain. It's all different malts.
Nice. Yeah, that's a tasty one.
So,
is that your favorite out of?
I think of the blendeds, it's definitely one of my favorites. Though at the price point, I would go with either the Great King Street or even a Monkey Shoulder for something that I'm going to drink more regularly. This is something that I only allow myself a sip every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's getting scotches from like Clynelish. It's getting some Highland malts. I'm looking at their book here from. I'm not even sure what this one is. Tinidich?
I don't know.
Correct my pronunciation in the comments, please.
Tinidich.
I don't know these things until I hear them out loud. But that's pretty much what we have for you today. Blended ones are going to be pretty easy to find in most bars. Most bars, or at least in watering hole type bars, Johnny Walker Black's probably going to be the best thing that they've got on their table, and it's a good little sipper. It's got a little bit of smokiness to it, but it's a real easy drinker. Monkey Shoulder's showing up in a lot of bars now because of the advertisements, and help yourself. Get yourself one.
Blended Scotch, people. Go out and find something. Flat out.
All right.
Salud.
Thank you all. See you next time.